Romulus, along with his twin brother Remus, was born to Rhea Silvia, a Vestal virgin, and Mars, the god of war, though some traditions claim their father was Romulus, the usurper king of Alba Longa. Their great-uncle Romulus, fearing the twins, might one day challenge his rule, ordered them to be drowned in the Tiber River. The servant assigned to carry out the deed did not kill them, but instead placed them in a basket, which was left to float on the river's edge. The basket came to rest at the foot of the Palatine Hill, where a she-wolf discovered and nursed the infants, until a shepherd named Faustulus found them and brought them home to his wife, Acca Laurentia, who raised them as her own. The twins were cared for by the she-wolf until they were discovered by the shepherd Faustulus, who took them to his wife, Acca Laurentia. She raised them as her own sons, and they grew up among shepherds in the countryside near the Tiber. From a young age, Romulus and Remus showed remarkable strength, courage, and leadership, often defending their fellow herdsmen against robbers and wild animals. They became known for their sense of justice, redistributing stolen goods to the poor and gaining the loyalty of many local youths, which would later help them in their struggle for power. As Romulus and Remus grew into adulthood, their reputation for strength and leadership began to spread, but it also brought them into conflict with the retainers of King Romulus, the ruler of Alba Longa. During a skirmish with local herdsmen, Remus was captured and brought before King Romulus, accused of leading raids into royal lands. Romulus, gathering a band of loyal shepherds, sought his brother's release. It was during this time that Faustulus, the twins' adoptive father, revealed to Romulus the truth about their birth, that they were not humble shepherds by blood, but the grandsons of King Numitor, the rightful ruler of Alba Longa, who had been overthrown by his own brother Romulus. At the same time, Remus learned the same truth from Numitor himself, who noticed the young man's noble bearing and began to suspect their connection. Once reunited, Romulus and Remus devised a plan to overthrow Romulus. They rallied the shepherds and townspeople loyal to Numitor, stormed the city, killed Romulus, and restored their grandfather to the throne, finally reclaiming their family's rightful position. After restoring their grandfather Numitor to the throne of Alba Longa, Romulus and Remus decided to build a new settlement of their own, near the place where the she-wolf had nursed them as infants. The location along the Tiber River was strategic, offering both defensibility and access to trade routes. However, the brothers soon disagreed over the precise site. Romulus preferred the Palatine Hill, with its central position and strong natural fortifications, while Remus favored the Aventine Hill. To settle the dispute, they turned to augury, the reading of omens from the flight of birds. Remus reportedly saw 6 vultures first, but Romulus claimed to have seen 12, leading to arguments over whether priority or number was more important. The quarrel intensified as each began marking out the boundaries of his chosen site. When Remus mocked Romulus by leaping over his newly built walls, Romulus, enraged, struck him down, though some versions say one of Romulus's followers delivered the fatal blow. With his brother dead, Romulus became the sole founder of the new city, which he named Rome after himself, and he set about laying its foundations, establishing its laws, and planning its defenses. The death of Remus occurred in the midst of the bitter dispute over where the new city should be built. After the augury contest ended in disagreement, Remus claiming victory by being the first to see 6 vultures, Romulus insisting on his own win. After spotting 12, resentment between the brothers deepened. Both began working separately on their respective sites, Romulus on the Palatine Hill and Remus on the Aventine. Tensions rose when Remus, either to ridicule his brother or to test the strength of the defenses, leapt over the low walls Romulus had begun constructing. This act was seen as a direct insult to Romulus's authority and a symbolic violation of the city's sanctity. In a flash of anger, Romulus struck Remus down with his own hand, declaring that this would be the fate of anyone who dared to breach Rome's defenses. Some traditions claim that it was not Romulus but one of his companions, often named Sulla, who killed Remus at Romulus's command or in his defense. Regardless of the exact manner, Remus's death left Romulus as the sole ruler and founder, marking the beginning of his reign but forever shadowing the birth of Rome with fratricide. Once Romulus stood as the sole ruler of the fledgling city, he immediately turned his attention to organizing its government, laws, and defenses. He began by establishing a council of 100 men drawn from the leading families, known as patres, who would later become the Roman Senate and serve as his advisors. Romulus also divided the population into tribes and curiae to structure civic life and military organization. Understanding that a strong army was essential for survival, he required all able-bodied men to serve as soldiers, creating a disciplined fighting force. Realizing that Rome's growth depended on attracting new inhabitants, he declared the city an asylum, a sanctuary for fugitives, exiles, runaway slaves, and anyone seeking a fresh start. This policy quickly swelled the population, but because most newcomers were men, Romulus faced a shortage of women, which would lead to the events with the Sabines. During this early period, Romulus personally led the defense of the city against hostile neighbors, testing Rome's military strength and forging its identity as a community bound by loyalty, discipline, and ambition. These formative measures laid the foundation for Rome's future as a powerful and expansionist state. As Rome's population grew under Romulus's asylum policy, it became clear that the city faced a severe shortage of women, threatening its future stability. Romulus understood that without wives, the new settlers could not establish families, and the city would struggle to endure. Negotiations with neighboring communities for marriage alliances failed, as none of the surrounding peoples were willing to give their daughters to what they saw as a rough and newly formed settlement of outsiders. Romulus devised a cunning plan. He invited the neighboring Sabines and other tribes to a grand festival in honor of the god Consus, offering games, feasts, and spectacles to lure them into a sense of friendship. When the guests arrived with their families, Romulus gave a prearranged signal during the festivities, and the Roman men seized the young women, each taking one as his future wife. Although the women were distraught, Romulus personally assured them that they would be treated with respect, gain legal rights as wives, and share in the property and fortunes of their new husbands. The enraged Sabine men left and soon declared war, leading to several battles. The conflict reached its climax when the Sabines, led by King Titus Tatius, captured the Capitoline Hill through the betrayal of Tarpeia, a Roman maiden. In the final confrontation between the armies, the abducted women intervened, placing themselves between the fighting men and pleading for peace, arguing that they could not bear to see their fathers and brothers kill their husbands. Their appeal ended the war, and the Romans and Sabines agreed to unite into a single people, ruled jointly by Romulus and Tatius, marking one of the most significant alliances in Rome's legendary history, after the death of Titus. Tatius accounts vary between his being killed in a skirmish at Lavinium or murdered during a diplomatic visit. Romulus once again ruled Rome alone. With the combined strength of the Romans and Sabines now under his command, the city entered a period of rapid expansion. Romulus reorganized the army to incorporate Sabine warriors, strengthening the legions and refining military tactics. He launched a series of campaigns against neighboring tribes such as the Fidenae, Veontes, and Senonenses, often waging war not merely for defense but to seize territory, resources, and captives who could be integrated into Roman society. His victories were decisive and often brutal, sending a clear message of Rome's rising power in the region. Romulus also expanded the city's territory by establishing colonies and incorporating conquered lands into Rome's jurisdiction, binding them through alliances or direct rule. These conquests enriched Rome and increased its population, while reinforcing the martial culture that would define the city for centuries. Internally, Romulus continued to strengthen civic structures, but his growing power and at times autocratic style began to stir resentment among the patricians, sowing the seeds for the political tensions that would surround the final chapter of his life. In the 37th year of his reign, Romulus summoned the Roman people to the field of Mars to review the army and address them. As he stood before the crowd, a sudden and violent storm broke out, with thick clouds, thunder, and a darkness so heavy that the people could scarcely see one another. When the storm cleared, Romulus was gone. Many believed he had been taken up to the heavens by his father Mars and transformed into the god Quirinus, destined to watch over Rome for eternity. Priests and senators later declared this divine ascension to be the truth, reinforcing the sacred aura around Rome's founder. Yet whispers spread among the people that the senators, weary of his growing arrogance and perhaps jealous of his power, had murdered him during the chaos, cut his body into pieces, and secretly buried them. Despite the rumors, the official story prevailed, and Romulus was honored as both the first king of Rome and one of its protective deities, leaving behind a legacy that merged myth, religion, and politics in the foundation of Roman identity.